So welcome, and this is just a chat, an interview with a very highly respected industry expert. He would probably um, blush, but we're going to
Yeah.
call him that anyway. But I'm Mitch Cole. I'm with Columbia Omni, and Andrew Fraser is the global quality director of InMocean, which is a very nice sized swimwear company. And Andrew's been around the industry for a long time. He's been one of the really the founders of digital color, and has given many talks at the AATCC seminars where I've heard him. And we'll just get right into it. So look, things are different now. Everybody is working from home. Are you working from home also, Andrew?
I am since about March 20th.
Yeah, that's when it hit.
That's when
And how do you do color management from home? How does that work for you? I mean, you don't have a spectrophotometer. You know what do you do?
I don't have a spectro. So I was in quarantine for 10 days. I'd been in New York for a couple of weeks in February, and then ended up going to Greenville for the international convention. And as I was leaving South Carolina, I went up to North Carolina to visit my mother, and that's when everything broke. That's when, everything kind of started getting locked down. I got tested the Monday I got back, and it was supposed to be a 2-day quarantine and get my results. It ended up being 10 days.
Yeah.
So once I was sprung, I went into the office with mask and gloves on a Saturday. Nobody was there. And I basically moved my office from our local Bentonville office into my dining room, and took the light box and put it in my bedroom because that was the darkest place. And so I am operating with a set of color standards and a Spectralite QC light box.
So you can get by with a light box, but not without it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Are you receiving subnets from your vendors?
Yeah. So basically, once I set up my office here, the message went out that our New York office was closed and all packages should come to me. So every day at 9:45, when FedEx rings the doorbell and my Yorkshire Terrier goes crazy, I go outside with gloves on and pull the packages into the garage, either spray them down with Lysol or wipe them down with disinfectant wipes. Cut off the outer packaging, and again, disinfect everything. And basically I let it sit for 24 hours. If there are things that are urgent that have to go out that day, then even when I'm assessing them, I keep gloves on. But we do that, and then because the majority of what I do is dealing with the large retailer based here, we have to submit through Consumer Testing Laboratories, UL, for color approval. So it's assessing, it's writing comments, it's doing all the paperwork, mounting the submits, and then driving them down to the testing lab so that they can get logged in before 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So many
So it
hats.
sounds like you're doing what your staff used to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the interesting thing is, I didn't really engage with a lot of the other departments in the company. So that's been an awakening for me, in that a lot of the things that they were doing were internal approvals, or they were doing for different brands or whatever. So I've gotten to see that. So from an aha moment, there are a lot of things that we need to make better.
Right. So the question I have is that clearly all color managers are doing this, doing their jobs differently. Has the quality suffered? Has color quality suffered, or are we letting more things go because of circumstances?
I would say from the submits that I've seen through the mills that I know and I've been to and I've worked with for the last years to the ones that I've never worked with, I can see a degradation in the quality of submits that I'm receiving. Things that never would have been sent to me before are being sent, and I think a lot of that has to do with. I don't believe the mills are up and running 100%. I don't think all the workers came back yet, and I think the technically skilled workers didn't come back. So the people in the color matching laboratory, the dye matching laboratory, the people that are doing these strikeoffs for us. Based upon what I've seen, Mitch, I would say that that's half of the issue. And I think the other issue is the fact that not so much today, but 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, a package that normally took 24 hours to reach here from China was taking 6, 7, 8 days. So I think with the long delay in getting the submits here, and then having to make comments that no, it's not good enough, you have to do it again. People were just sending stuff that they got because it was taking so long for them to get submits to them.
Huh. That's interesting. We see it ourselves just in the store in New York, that FedEx is hard to get, and they're putting all their resources to consumers, because everybody's ordering from Amazon and getting things in the house, and it's tough. But it's getting better, but it has been tough. So when I see a crisis like the pandemic we're in, and where we were in 2008 with the financial crisis, I saw after that people got used to having just a lot less staff, and they got used to it and stuck to it. It changed the way people did business, and I'm wondering if that's going to happen in our business now. Are people just going to get used to either less people, or they're going to get used to working from home? Will be okay? Will offices be, companies be a little decentralized? Do you see any of that?
I do. I think for those that can work from home, they're gonna remain working from home. I think that there's I know in my case, I get a lot more done in a day working from home than I did going to the office, just because I've got so much to do and I've got to get it done in a certain time frame. Yeah. I've got 2 adult children that are working from home, and their efficiency has improved immensely, just because of the communication factor. When you think about making a phone call to get in touch with somebody so that you can continue on your project or whatever, and they may look at the phone and go, oh, I can't deal with that right now. And what I am seeing from their input as well as my own, it's you schedule a Zoom call and that person's going to be on the other end, and they're more open to being available.
Yeah. They don't get caught in traffic.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that is true. I think that's true. One thing that I see a lot of when in the store is that there's a lot of small, medium-sized companies that are looking, how do they get better at color? I hear the craziest stories of what people are approving and all that. I'm sure you've heard them over the years too. But that being the case, I wonder, what are some of the things that you could advise a small or medium-sized company to start to improve a 100% visual color process, to start to get digital? Like, what are some of the small steps they could take to get there?
Use free stuff that's out there on the internet. Um, a lot of companies, as long as you can upload a QTX file, you can do a search. Or if you're a designer and the RGB value that you want, using RGB values, your color standard providers can do an RGB match for you and get you a standard that you're looking for. I'm going to say this throughout this interview. The biggest thing that I see that's wrong with retail color today is the fact that people cut stuff up and send it out to the mills, and that's not a best practice. It's actually the most horrible thing you can do. So what we try and do is instill in our designers, if you want to take this cutting, then let us match it to a standard that's already existing, because that way we get the same good quality standard out to the mills, because you don't just have one mill. You have a knit mill, you have a woven mill, you have an elastic mill, you have a printer, you have a trim mill, and you sending a 1x1 swatch to the regional office, and then they have to cut it into 16 other swatches. I mean, I've seen it. It's a toothpick.
Yeah.
It's the size of a toothpick, and it's about 1/2 an inch long. So in my mind, it would be the benefit of doing small things that matter, that you can do free of charge or with very little capital investment. I don't have a Spectro at the house, but I do have color management software on my laptop. Right. So I have the ability to say, send me the QTX file. I can pull it up, I can look at it, and I can make an assessment based upon what the numbers look like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually the thing that I say that they can get started with, is some color management software. They can start looking at that color digitally. The mills will send them a QTX file, and they can start to get a handle on what that color looks like digitally, and to start there. Spectros are very expensive, as we know. So
well, and the use of the small inexpensive handhelds as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's another option. They're not that expensive. And with services like Pantone and the other color standard providers, you have the ability to link those into handhelds, and it kind of gives you a library that you can shoot from.
Yep. Yep. I like your example of cutting up a piece of fabric until it's the size of a pencil. I've seen people use a standard maybe to start, usually fabric, and then when they do have to add mills, as you were saying, they'll use a production standard, which may be further away from the original standard, and now you're starting to get a color creep, and you could be off into left field pretty quickly. So.
Well, especially if you're doing a repeat color from season to season.
Right.
Your shade band was approved. Well, now this next season it crept more, red, yellow. And, if you plot everything over 2 or 3 seasons, you go to a shotgun effect versus a nice tight cluster.
Right.
So, the other thing is, and, John Dorsey said this to me years ago, inspect what you expect. So, from a production-minded person, it's all about getting the production out and getting it into the factory so you can sew it and ship your goods. But you also have to make sure that back in the fabric stage, you're reading everything. And, this is a big discussion that we have within our company right now. It's, do you read lots or do you read rolls? In my opinion, I want rolls read, because then I know what my shade band is, I know what shade sort code I can assign to it, and I've got the full breadth of what my production looks like.
Sure.
If you just do lot to lot, you have variation within that lot that's
Sure.
almost being hidden from you.
That's right. That's right. And do you do your shade bands digitally?
We do. The way it works, we have to do an electronic lab dip and then send in the physical and do electronic shade band and send in the physicals. So it's, you know, there are two schools of thought: just use Spectro or just use visual. And I think you have to collaborate between the two. You use digital to get you close to and verify that your sample is what it needs to be to pass your brand or your retailer's spectral requirements. So all those things that I've been getting in for the last 3 months that look bad, they failed. A lot of them should have never been sent. So starting the process at the source and eliminating them sending things until it passes on a Spectro, in my opinion, is the absolute right thing to do.
Yeah, I didn't ask you to come here for our first interview just because I agreed with you, but I agree with you. Because I think that digital and physical have to go hand in hand. One informs the other. And to really have a really good process, you use both and use, both to the full extent of what it can give you. So you talked about the color standards people, and I know you use color standards. That's the physical. Is there anything that you would like to see them do better, or to do it all that they're not doing now?
So with COVID and not having the ability to run down to your store, which is around the corner from our office, I think one of the big things, and I think, and you and I had a discussion about this right before everything shut down, about can we subscribe to your library on an electronic basis, so that we service multiple brands and multiple retailers, so we're using multiple color standard providers, right? But ultimately, when you have designers in for internal brands, or we want a color. I don't care if that color is a Pantone color or a CSI color, or a Chroma color, or Color color. I want that color, and as we are contained by working at home in this virus, how do my designers who are sitting in New Jersey or in Brooklyn or wherever they are have the ability to go, okay, I like this color, I can read it, or we can read it for them and send it to them, but how do I search that? And that's kind of the thing. And you can say, well, but everyone's got their international, or their not international property, but their intellectual property, right? So your colors are your intellectual property. I get that. So there would have to be some type of NDA to do that. So I think that is a need within the industry, to help designers get to a point where they're not cutting up something that they found in the store, but they're actually going, I like this color. Oh, here it is. I can order color standards now, and I can get my bulk production done because I can send out colors.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is from color standard provider standpoint. You guys do coated paper, you do TCX, you do plastic, you do a lot of different things. I work for a swimwear company, so we deal with polyester and we deal with nylon. And so what I see lacking in the industry are, nylon color standards and polyester color standards. and not that they're not out there, but they're not out there in a large volume. So that, being very selfish to my business and to activewear,
Mhm.
I would say that that would be something that I think really needs to be addressed in the future.
Yeah. And it sounds like I mean, it feels like people are making moves in that direction.
Yeah, it's out there, but it's very small.
Yeah.
You know, I think there is an opportunity. I mean, you know, sportswear, outerwear, swimwear, activewear. That's a big segment of the apparel industry,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not just apparel, but you know, home, camping, outdoors.
Sure. Do you see the overall quality of color improving over where it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
I do. I think a lot of that has to do with the not really the technology. I mean, technology's been the same, but the color management systems have been upgraded. The education part of educating the mills, educating the fabric suppliers that no, you have to send in electronic color. This is before you send in physical. So I think that education over the last 10 years has helped. Um, I think, you know, when you think about Pacific Textiles, I'm dating myself now, but 30 years ago, you know, it was one tower and a 5 mile dirt road or gravel road with potholes, right? I mean, that van bounced and bumped along that road, and you were happy to get out. And today, it's multi towers, it's paved, it's a beautiful facility. So I think as the mills have grown and reinvested in their company and reinvested in technology, things have gotten better. Um, but I think the use of the spectros and the color matching software, the color formulation software, um, and you know, add into that now sustainable dye stuffs, because everyone wants to be sustainable, um, and we don't want to hurt the environment. So I think you know, over the last 20 years, it's probably gotten a whole lot better. The issue you have now, again, just speaking from my own experience, is you have a lot of younger people running and owning dye houses in Asia. So they're not the Pacific Textiles or the Fountain Sets or a small dye house that's doing a good job. They've got the right light box. They've got the color formulation software. They have the dispensing systems, but they don't necessarily have the experience of a Fountain Set or you know, a Pacific Textiles or a Swiss Tech. So I think, you know, it's kind of a balance. And then you also have to hit a certain price point.
Sure.
So it's, you know, it's like everything else. Can you give me a dye formulation that can match my color exactly? Yes, but you can't afford it. So then, you know, they look at the third or fourth one down, which is much cheaper, and then you have to balance out: am I going to hit my specifications? Am I going to pass all my color fastest testing? You know, so it's a balance, and I think that's what I've been seeing, you know, since I started going to China 25 years ago. That yeah, there has been an improvement shift. But I think as these new guys start coming in, it's almost relearning again for them to gain that experience.
Right, right. Because your big guys like Fountain Set and whatnot um, have gone through probably accreditations and whatnot, and education of how to do it right. I didn't realize that there were so many young people getting into the business. Try and talk me out of it.
Well, you know, they're proud of where they grew up. They want to establish a business in, you know, in their village or in their province where they grew up. And I've seen a lot of good ones, and I've seen a lot of bad ones. And I think one of the things that I would say is a best practice is, if you're doing this from home because we can't travel anymore, um, so ask for pictures, ask for mill profiles, and not necessarily the nice magazine that shows all the bells and whistles,
Right.
but a mill evaluation says, do you have the correct light box? Do you have the correct light source? Do you have a color formulation software? Do you have a dispensing system? Do you have an internal testing lab? Because although you might match my color, it's going to bleed. So it's those things to kind of evaluate, where do you want to put your business, and who are your other customers, who are your other brands and your other retailers that you service.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I know you have a light box, but how many sweaters do you have piled in it? Show me a picture.
Absolutely.
So, in the last talk, we had that panel discussion, and one question came up, and I don't know if we fully explored it, but I'll ask you, is about sustainability. It was such a big thing in the last year or two, and I'm wondering if that pandemic is going to push that aside. Are people just going to be happy to be back at work and get goods out the door? Will sustainability stay with us? Will it sustain?
I think it will sustain. Um, I think the brands and retailers have gone down this path, and they're not willing to veer. When you look at and think about it, yarn's produced months and months and months in advance based upon what the predictions are of the volume, right? So even though this hit in January, think about all the recycled product that was already in the warehouse waiting to be knit for this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Then you look at pricing. Okay, so nylon and polyester are their pricing is convergent on oil pricing, right? And we saw a huge dip in the uh,
yeah.
petroleum pricing.
It was negative at one point.
Right. So I think the cost of doing sustainability is leveling out. Recycled versus virgin. Yeah, recycled's higher. But I also think that when you look at, okay, I have these two products. This is where you were with this product. I can give you this product now, which is recycled. And what do you want to do? Because they're almost at the same cost. And what's better for your business? Is your consumer really going to know? And that's a merchandising decision, and that's a hitting your sustainability goal decision.
Yeah.
But is it right for that product? Is it not right for that product? And that's where we follow the instruction that our brands and our retailers give us.
Yeah. So as a whole, and that's interesting. I really, to look at it from a price standpoint, it's true. As a whole, are there areas where the whole color management industry is really lacking? You see that they should be going in a direction that they're not?
Boy, that's a loaded question, Mitch.
I don't want to ask any loaded questions. You can forget it.
Um, we've been doing it the same way for the last 50 years. You get a lab dip, you send the lab dip in, it gets approved, you go to bulk. Are there better ways of doing it? Yeah, I think there are. But again, this goes back to the discussion that we've already had, which is, if you go strictly electronic and not visual, you're going to miss a lot. And you're going to miss a lot, not just because the color may be off, but you're talking about a flat standard versus a textured lab dip. So even spectrally, you're not going to get the same reading. We used to do an experiment where I worked, where we had 4 swatches on the board, and one was one was a rib, one was a jersey, one was a Santoni, and one was a woven, a stretch polyester woven. And we copied and pasted the QTX file onto all 4 images. And they all looked the same because we put the QTX file on them. But in actuality, and it showed a delta E of 0.0, but in actuality, they weren't the same because the reflectance, once you dye them and then read the reflectance is going to be different because the structures of the fabrics are different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you think about our business or intimate apparel business where you've got a lace and you have a tricot and you have an elastic and you have wire channel and you have straps and you have rings and slides, all different.
Yeah.
So from an electronic standpoint, because you have so many different substrates and so many different surfaces, even if everything said, yes, that's a great match, and you put it in a light box all put together in a garment, you go, oh, this is not good at all. I can't sell this. So I think until something comes along where you can take multiple substrates and multiple fabrications and be able to read them in such a way that it takes or it enhances the ability to look at the structural differences, I think we're kind of stuck with the way we're doing it right now. I think if you're doing 100% cotton woven and that's your business and you do millions and millions and millions of yards of that every year, then yeah, I think electronic can work. But I think it's product specific.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's like where X-Rite was trying to get towards with, hey, we worked so many years on getting the color, but what about the appearance? What about the texture? What is it, what does that add to it? And they have some great technology, but very expensive yet. It has many years.
Going back to your small and medium-sized company,
Yeah.
A light box is not that expensive, right? Color standards aren't that expensive.
No.
A 100 hue Munsell test is not that expensive. But again, it goes back to what are the best practices of the people looking at color within your organization? Do you do 100 hue testing, twice a year? Are the people that are looking at your subnets, can they pass perception testing? Are they colorblind? I mean, all these things, and you think, oh my gosh, of course we do that. You'd be surprised. I've walked into places before and the person was colorblind.
There you go.
I've walked into a mill and I pulled down the diffuser plate on the SF QC or Spectralite 3, and I checked the bulbs. What they were calling U35 was not U35. So it's just those. You have to take the time to go in and and because I can't be there now, I say pull the diffuser plate down and take a picture of your light bulbs in the specific order that they're in. And again, you can gain knowledge from that, and you can correct stuff, even as simply as taking a digital photo of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna change gears on you now and ask you, how did you get into this business?
By mistake. So
we all say that.
I grew up in North Carolina, so you were either in the textile industry or the tobacco industry, right? My dad wanted me to be an engineer because I could take stuff apart, fix it, and so I was very mechanically inclined. When I applied to NC State, the engineering school was full, but the textile school wasn't, and there was only one class different in each semester. So I thought, I can catch up. I'll go to the textile school, get my grades up, and transfer. And basically, what happened was because textiles are so mechanical, you know, Dr. Peter Ward, yarn formation class, he talked about it, and then he took us upstairs on third floor of Nelson to a spinning frame, and it just came together. It made sense. Oh, that's the drafting. Oh, that's the traveler. This is how we put. And once I clicked, it was like, I'm staying in this. So I did that for 2 years. My parents begged me to get out. I said, no, I'm staying in textiles. And then I was fortunate enough to have a summer internship with Sibagagi in Greensboro, and I worked in the cold pad batch lab. And after that summer, I was so enthralled with the dyeing and finishing side of textiles. I couldn't switch my major, but all my electives went into textile chemistry. I mean, I took organic chemistry as an elective because I wanted to take the dyeing and finishing classes. I know it was crazy.
I took it a few times.
But so I graduated with a degree in textile science, concentration in textile chemistry. Went to make yarn for Burlington Industries for 4 years. So I learned a lot about making yarn. Left North Carolina, came to Arkansas the first time, and worked for a men's shirting manufacturing company. They were the largest private label shirt manufacturer in the country at the time, late 80s, early 90s. Did that for 5 years. I was their piece goods coordinator, so I'd be going back to the mills and you know, talking about shading issues and all the problems that we would have. As things started going to Asia, and we would get slower and slower, and you know, we'd lay off people on Wednesdays, and the writing was on the wall that, you know, the business was going to change. I got a call from a friend in one of the mills and said, hey, Victoria's Secret's looking for a fabric technologist. Are you interested? So of course I said yes, and ended up joining Victoria's Secret in '96. And it was the heyday of Victoria's Secret. So I went in as fabric technologist, and so we had fabric working and we had color working, and they were totally separate. So I had 2 colorists in a room doing color, and I had fabric people doing fabric. And what we realized was the colorists didn't know what the garment looked like, and therefore they were just matching lab dips to color standards. And they didn't know that, oh, well, this lace went with this tricot, went with this elastic. So we were having issues really making nice looking garments. So we restructured, and we basically made everyone textile technologists, right? So they had responsibility not only for the fabrics, but also for the color. And so that corrected our issue, and our garments looked really nice, and that was that. After about 7.5 years in Columbus, my wife got homesick. It was, if you've ever lived in Columbus, it's kind of gray 8 months out of the year. You really can't get in the swimming pool until August because the water's still cold. And, you know, I felt like it was time for a change. So, and there was an opening at Walmart International for a fabric manager. So we moved to Northwest Arkansas. So about 3 hours west of where we had lived before. And I worked with Walmart as that and international, and then director of fabric and color at Walmart USA. And then I got an opportunity to leave Walmart and basically start my own business as a consultant to suppliers to Walmart. Hence, that's kind of how I met InMocean Group 15 years ago. But so that went well until about 2010. And then, you know, with the 2008 to 2010 kind of financial crisis, people weren't hiring consultants anymore. So I ended up going, an old boss from Victoria's Secret said, are you still consulting? I said, well, yeah. He said, well, I need you for 3 months down in Southwest Florida at Chico's. So for 3 months, I was back and forth. And basically after my contract was up, they said, we'd like for you to stay. Well, economy was still not great. It was a nice, stable opportunity for me. So for 5 years, 5.5 years, I commuted every other weekend back and forth from Chico's to Southwest Florida and Northwest Arkansas. And then after 5 years, I was ready to come home. Just the commute and being away from family was taxing in itself. Loved the company, but needed to get home, and joined Consumer Testing Laboratories, who do the color management for Walmart. And we put in some really good systems. We put in RFID and login so we could track all of our submissions, because a lot of times if you failed them before you could get them back into the filing station, the supplier was asking for a color review. So that made it very easy for us to track that and make that happen. And excuse me. So that was fun and it was all good. But one of the things I love to do is get into the mills. I've always been, I want to go see the dye house, I want to go see the knitter, the printer, because that's where you can truly understand where the problems are and how to fix them. And so I was ready for a change, and InMocean just happened to be looking for somebody, so the timing was right. And so for the last 2 years, I've been working at InMocean trying to improve our procedures and our processes, and make sure that all our regional offices, our mills, our printers have the correct number of color standards that they need. I still have to say, don't cut my color standards. But I can tell you one of the big things that we did, and I will continue to tout, is you have to buy enough color standards to service your business. So when I got to InMocean, I think we were probably sending 3 color standards per regional office, and now we're sending 8. So you know what happened to the 3 that were being sent? They were being cut up into one by
one.
Right. But we've updated our spectros, we've updated our software. We are maintaining electronic color with all our regional offices. And so it takes a long time. You take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But it's a slow process. Inspect what you expect, as John Darcy has told me year after year, because that's truly what you find where your issues are. And it could be as simple as, oh, this is supposed to be CWF and you're using U30 or U35. And so it's the hands-on approach. It's for the people using Spectralite 3s or Spectralite QCs, you pull down the diffuser plate, take your hand and wipe it over the front of it. If it comes back black, guess what? That's not the correct light source. So the mills have to wipe that down at least once a month, and if it's a really dirty place, once a week. Otherwise, you're not getting the correct light source into your sample.
Yep. Well, it sounds so basic.
So answering your question, that's how I got into the industry. It was completely by mistake, but it was a love and a passion for seeking new things, seeking new technology, and totally understanding from ground up why we're having issues that we're having.
That's cool. That's great. So what could you tell the listening and viewing audience that they would be surprised to learn about Andrew Fraser? The ones that you could talk, it's still a family thing.
I was born in England.
You're born in England?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I only became a United States citizen after my son was born.
Huh.
So
that qualifies.
Yeah, so that's something unique and different.
So I'm looking at Facebook now, and there's a question here from Betsy Allen. We all know Betsy. She also says, "Hey Andrew, but with less customers being in stores, won't more customers expect less perfection in outfitting / color matching? Also known as, do you think our tolerances should expand?"
I don't. So Betsy, I think you and I have had this conversation before. When I was at Chico's, I set our delta E tolerance at 0.80, and everyone thought I was crazy because it's tight. It's tighter than the industry average. However, what I was tending to see was if I asked for a 1, I get a 1.2 to a 1.5. If I asked for a 0.8, I get a 1 to a 1.2. So just because we're in this situation, our standards shouldn't change. Our expectations shouldn't change. And, you know, the mills have to do a better job, and they can do a better job. But if we all say, oh, that's okay, we'll take it this time, then it's a downhill slope. So our theory is we are going to maintain our spectral tolerances. We're going to maintain our expectations. And if it's not right, we're not going to send it in.
There's one other comment, not a question, but a comment from Mine Salili from Outer Stuff. And she says, thank you, Mr. Fraser, for sharing your valuable knowledge. So I second that, and I really thank you, Andrew. It was very interesting and really informative. And as always, I always get a lot of talking to you. So appreciate it.
I appreciate that. If I can just say one thing, Mitch.
Absolutely.
So I'm a member of AATCC Education Advisory Board, and right now chair of RA 36. And A Square typically does color management conferences on a yearly basis. We've elected not to do that this year because of travel, trying to figure out how to run that conference. But there are going to be color management seminars and talks, webinars. So good. Just kind of for those that are listening, if you're an A Squared member, get on the website and check out some of the stuff that they're reissuing because it's good, best practices, general knowledge. If you have new people coming in, and it's a way to at least get them the basic training and start that conversation of asking these questions that they may have, just as an additional resource while we're locked down like this.
Yeah, they are valuable. I've learned a lot over the years. I used to make sure that people who work for me also went to those management workshops, color management workshops. So they're definitely valuable. Andrew, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Be well. And be well. Thanks, everybody.